Diane, I'm listening to a podcast, Black Lodge Trivia Night. I've never heard so many game aspirations in my life. All right, testing 1, 2. Looks like I'm getting some levels. Hopefully, if anybody checks this out, you can hear me. So, welcome to Black Lodge Trivia Night. Usually when we stream here on Twitch, we are streaming, Matt does a lot of Elden Ring. I've done some Lord of the Rings Online. I've done some Darklands. I've done, a bunch of stuff like that. But I thought I would try something a little bit different tonight. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of Foundry prep and sort of go through it a little bit. Now, let's see. I was streaming with OBS, so I can kill that because I had to look up how to do stuff as I was prepping to do this. And so what I'm going to do is, if you know anything about this channel, we are an actual play RPG podcast, YouTube channel, whatever you want to call us. And we have a rotation. And in that rotation, I'm coming up next. In fact, I'm coming up this Thursday. And I'm not entirely ready to go. So again, if you know anything about what our rotation is, the game I'm going to do first is a Cold War spy game that's sort of modeled after John le Carré novels. And that's the vibe that I'm going for. And I had trouble finding a system for it. So what I ended up settling on was Mithras. And so here is the Mithras gateway. You can sort of see it in the upper left corner here. I don't know if my mouse is... That doesn't matter. I'm going to unpause the game just so we don't have to look at that. But so what I've started to set up is I've started to set up my Foundry module. And first thing is I like to create the ambiance. So I get like a background. I sort of try and license images and things like that. I can get rid of that guy. A lot of testing going on. You're going to see a little exclamation point up here because a new version 12 of Foundry's come out, but I'm not going to upgrade yet because the module for Mithras and probably a lot of the other modules I'm using are not ready to go. So I've done a bunch of prep already, but what I'm going to start by doing is I'm going to show you some of the modules I'm using. Compendium folders, I don't know if I actually need that anymore when they've updated a lot of the folders within Foundry. Maybe they fixed some stuff. But that's there. Delta Green, I don't know why I have that. I don't know what that is specifically. Dice So Nice is a classic. You need that for, I think, rolling the 3D dice. Dice Tray gives you this stuff down here, so you can just click and get some stuff going for quick dice rolls, like a D8. And then you can roll, and then boom, boom. This is the Dice So Nice kicking in with there. Drag ruler, I don't think I need that, but it sort of helps you measure on the thing here, but I don't know if I really need that. FX Master lets you do some things. I don't know if you can see little flickers of like embers on the background, little orange specks. That's the kind of thing FX Master lets you do. Lock View lets you take a background image and sort of auto scale it to a certain size and shape and then make it so that the players can't move it around. It's good, I think, for like a, I don't know, like just a general background like we're working with here. You wouldn't want to use it for a map. Then we've got Mithras Native. I don't know what that is. That might be some stuff that I've done for, let me see if I go to journal entries. I've done a lot of data entry for, the classic Mithras rule set. So that might be what that is. Mithras Not So Imperative. That's actually an important one that we're going to be using and taking advantage of. That has a lot of macros. It's probably got other things, but there's a number of macros that we're going to need. And I'm not sure if they'd be here under Dogbone Z macros. I'm not sure. Might be a couple of others. Again, I'm not sure. But the ones I grabbed is a skill roll V10, a D100 roll V10, Nick's skill point distributor V10, special effects wizard. I don't know if I need that one too much. Skill increase test. We'll figure that out. But the reason why I'm grabbing some of these is because here's my test character. What I want to be able to do with this is the skill roll V10. This is probably going to be the most important one. What it does is it gives you a general interface to do a die roll. You choose the difficulty, say a standard. You choose the skill you're working with, say athletics, which again here is going to be a 29. Lets you augment the skill. But here's the trick. Because of what I'm going to be doing, I need the custom augment value. So if I want to do a 20, let's see if it works. So yeah, you can see I rolled against a skill of a 49, a 19 against 49. So if you see here, it's a 29 skill. I did a custom augment of 20 to make it a 49. Let's see how this one does. This one's just a straight, you know, hey, like give me a standard roll, roll against a 50, you know, just that's also, and the reason why this is going to come up later with why this is important. I want to be able to augment a skill roll with another number, but in classic Mithras, usually it's another skill. I want to be able to do it a little differently. And luckily these mods let you do that. Next skill point distributor allows you to sort of track point spends during character creation to make it a little bit easier. Anyway, so again, this is going to be a sort of John le Carré inspired Cold War spy game. And there's some, then there's PDF Pager that lets you do things with PDFs. Quick Insert lets you actually do a search for anything within the module. It's a very helpful thing if you're looking to just do a quick search. Tabletop Music is a module that lets you get music. The Circus Mithras Native, that's going to be stuff that I'm adding, blah, blah, blah. Your turn is a thing that pops up during combat, but some people actually have difficulty, like it actually screws up their browser. So I'm going to turn that off for now. Okay, so the basics of what I needed to do. This is a homebrew using the Mithras imperative rule set. Now, I thought I had it printed out here, and I'm a little discombobulated. I can't find it, which is a little annoying, but that's not neither here nor there. The Mithras imperative is the free sort of open license. The orc license version of Mithras. So I'm going to start by basing it on this, because this is something that if I ever wanted to turn this into something more, I would be free to do so with proper attribution. If I attributed it properly. So we're going to start from there. And so what I need to do is I need to be able to have the guys, Matt and Patrick, jump in on Thursday and get everything started. So I need to start double checking my work. So I'm going to go here. What I like to do is I create a journal entry. And this is going to be for, I have, this is Mithras. I want the Circus. Go to journal entries, and there's a bunch of folders you're going to see. These are a bunch of things that I've been working on already. I've got, I don't know if it's going to be visible. Got my trusty legal pad that I've been jotting notes on for a long time. What I started with was coming up with a skill list. I don't know if it's going to be very obvious. I was taking inspiration from games like Delta Green, Fall of Delta Green, a PBTA module that I am never going to remember off the top of my head, and I probably should include it in the show notes if I can recall to do that. Let me make a note of that. And so those are my starting inspirations. Name of PBTA Cold War. Cool. So the first thing I did, I got a basic, saw how the other games did their skill lists. And then once I finished that, I was like, okay, let me take a look and see what the most obvious connection to Mithras would be. Like, what's the obvious Mithras skill? And once I did that, I guess I'll get my items going. Skills are items in Mithras, I guess in a lot of things. So I came up with Old, which was based on, this might be Night's Black Agent, Fall of Delta Green, something like that. So I sort of had those working, and I was like, okay, now let me translate those to Mithras. Now, what I like about Mithras and what I like about the module in particular is that it's very easy to customize. And that was going to be very important to me because I was going to be adding skills. I was going to be sort of changing things up. Like, obviously, not everything was going to be one for one. And the module is very flexible and allows you to, work with that. So what I need for the guys to be able to do is I need them to be able to make a character. And so I wanted to go through the steps and make sure I had everything good to go. And basically, I'm just pulling this from Mithras Imperative. Like, there's the character concept, kind of come up with what you want to do. Calculating statistics. There's a couple different ways to do it. It's like a 3d6. I guess you could do like a 4d6 keep high 3. But for certain stats in the game, they recommend you do 2d6 plus 6. So those are always going to be on average of 13. I think a 3d6 average is 11. I think that's the case. So what I wanted to do is I wanted them to be a little bit better than average in theory, because they're not average. They're supposed to be spies. Now, they're not supposed to be like James Bond or Mission Impossible, but they are supposed to be, capable, MI5 or whatever would not just take run-of-the-mill MI6. I don't know which one's which. I think it's MI6. They wouldn't just take run-of-the-mill garbage people. So I wanted them to be a little exceptional. So I made it so I went with a 2d6 plus 6. And again, if you click that, it's going to give you the roll. And a 2d6 plus 6. This guy rolled poorly. So that's going to be step 1 of character creation, is you have to be able to assign statistics. So I've got a test template here just to sort of go through the steps. I also said you could do a points build. Again, I'm sort of putting things in there, like if I were ever to write this down and publish it or whatever, I guess I'm just sort of putting the things in there. It sort of explains the characteristics. But so what I would do is I would do point build. So I'm just go down the line. So I got a 16 for strength. Is it letting me do it? Or do I do it here? That's where I do it. Okay. I got an 11 for constitution. I'm going to leave that. 9 is a 15. Not bad for size, I guess. This guy's going to be a little bit of a brute. What else we got? 9. Ooh, not very dexterous. Wait, right? He rolled a 9? Yeah. Terrible. Okay. So we got that. 13. There we go. I got something average. Slightly above average intelligence. Power. I'm not sure how I'm going to use power in this one, because it says your power is a measurement of a character's soul, spirit, inner drive, capacity for magic. Obviously, magic, I can delete that, but whatever. It does determine magic points, and I'm going to use magic points for other things, I think. So let's see. If I could customize the sheet, I would label it something other than magic points. Okay, super charismatic. I think tenacity is actually what I'm looking for. Tenacity matches your power point. So let's change that to a 17. That's really the number I'm looking for, is the tenacity. Dexterity is 9, so they're only going to get 2 action points. Luck points, I don't know where that comes from exactly. So yeah, if I were to change this dexterity to a 19, you'd get 3 points. What happens if you change it to like a 24? At some point, I feel like you would get 4 points. Yeah, there you go. But unfortunately, we're just at a 9. So step 1 is covered. That's good to go. Step 2 would be backgrounds and skills. So then what they would be doing is they would be choosing a general, a class, for lack of a better word. And I think what they would do, I would just have them probably drag it to the journal. Say they became like an inquisitor, and just put that there. And let's see if that's worth... Nope, it's not going to work. I guess it doesn't really matter. So they wouldn't need to do that. So let's save that. So I would have them put their career as, say, an inquisitor. And then you click on the inquisitor, and it gives you your skills. Now, these are all going to be professional skills, I hope. Let me drag them over. Yep. So you'd sort of drag these over. And you see they start to auto-populate. So hopefully I've done, yeah, within the skills, there's base characteristics. You add those together to get your starting percentage. And so the way it works is you're supposed to get these like 8 skills, but if you don't want these 8, you can swap in these 2 for some of them. Acting, I think I would ditch acting for now. I would take courtesy, forensics. Now, forensics, I probably relabeled certain skills. So forensics might be one that might have been something else at some point. But I added HumInt. Let me see. I took the basic idea for these skills from, was it Cepheus Modern? There's a spy game, I think, for Cepheus Deluxe. Cepheus Deluxe is a 2d6 system. And they sort of broke things into categories. HumInt, FinInt. What did they do? HumInt, FinInt, ImInt, which is image intelligence. MilInt, which is military intelligence. And SIGInt, which is signal intelligence. So when I saw like certain things, like should surveillance be SIGInt? No, it's different. That's physical surveillance. Okay. So when I was like, okay, there's a bunch of skills for like wiretapping, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to lump those all into SIGInt. Other things I might just lump together. So that's sort of what these were. ImInt stands for image intelligence, grants the character's knowledge of various photography techniques, equipment, as well as pertaining to image analysis and manipulation. So some games make like image analysis one thing, photography another. It's like, let's just all make it ImInt. And yeah, so I went with that. Anyway, point is, you know, so I had to come up with a basic skill list. So I think I've got that done. And part of the, so if you choose like a cobbler, part of it is the 11th commandment. Now the 11th commandment is something that I sort of added to the system. It's inspired heavily by what sort of Free League does or other games with like descending dice. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to make a way for the characters to be able to augment their skills. In Mithras, like I said, you usually augment one skill with another, which is if you let's take this for example. Where's a test? Let's bring him. That's what you can see the drag ruler is. So you can sort of, can you make waypoints? I don't know, but you can see that's what drag ruler does. So as you're moving, it'll tell you how far you're going. But if you go to, let's see, athletics, and you augment it with brawn, for instance, and you click augment skill, you can see athletics is 25, brawn is 31. I think it's going to be 20% or 10%. I'm not sure which. It's augmented by 7%. So it takes 20% of the skill and rounds up, I think. So anyway, that's, but I don't want to do that in this game. What I want to do in this game is I want to have a way for the players to have a resource they use to augment. So when you open your character up, say I was a cobbler, you'd go to journal, and you'd enter these starting assets here. 1d4, 1d12. I know I'm not a cobbler, but you know, it doesn't matter. 1d8. You have basically one of each die type. 1d6, and then resources 1d10. So, and what you can do with these is you can say like, okay, I'm going to choose to, as long as you can narratively explain it, I'm going to choose to use my assets ability, or say my covers, to augment this role. If you know, your covers as sort of like this catch-all abstracted thing could help, what you do is you'd start by rolling a d12 and get an 11. So then what you could do is you could then augment your skill check by those 11 points. So I don't know if that's going to, I feel like it's, I hope, a little more fun. So what you would do then is you could then do athletics, augment with an extra 11. That's why I needed these macros to be able to handle. Did it not work? Let me just double check that. Maybe you have to click the box. There you go. Yeah, did it do it though? Let me just double check. 25 added 11, 36. Yeah, so it definitely worked. But that's why I needed these macros to be able to do those custom augments, because I wanted to have the 11th commandment, the commandment dice. For spies, the 11th commandment is thou shalt not get caught. So, as I see bolded here, this is the only way to augment skill checks in the Circus. And I'll get into that hopefully more as we go on. Because, I don't know, this is one of those things, I don't know if I wrote it down in-game, but what I want to do is, again, I have tons and tons of notes. So you can see, I don't know if you can see here, it says Finint was commerce, accounting, business, negotiate, law. So I was sort of looking at skill packages from other games and sort of saying, okay, these could all be sort of consolidated into one. And so what I'm going to do with those commandment dice is they can go up and down just like they can in, say, like Forbidden Lands from Free League. You can use like skill points during character creation to move them up if you want them to be higher. In game, if you want to increase them, you can spend XP instead of spending it on skills. You got to save up and spend for it to up the dice. You could see on the character, there's a number of categories. Let's see. All of these go down. You have assets, covers, compromat, relationships, resources. Okay. So all of these start at the highest they can get is D20, and they can go down, D12, D10, D8, D6, D4. None of them are ever going to start at D20. The highest they'll ever start at is D12. So, a certain character that's good at, falsifying passports, stuff like that, is probably going to be good at covers. Compromat is the only one that goes up. So, and the way this works is compromat is bad. Compromat means it's the stuff that the enemies of the crown can use against you to compromise you. And you can use it. It's a risk. You can, and again, at first I was going to have the players come up with like, hey, what information compromises you? Like, are you an alcoholic? Are you having an affair? Stuff like that. But I was like, you know what? Let's just abstract it. They can sort of make of it what they will. And it's a resource that, all these, have a system for going down. So say like you roll a 1d4 for your assets and you roll a 1. So if you roll the lowest number, and this is sort of similar to what they do in Forbidden Lands, if you roll a 1 on any of these, you drop down a die. And the lower it gets, the more likely it is to drop down. So I felt like that was a good trade-off. Once it gets below D4, it's just gone. You can't use it until you invest skill point resources, invest time to rebuild that network, that go bag, however you want to internalize it. The compromat, like I said, goes up. And it's basically sort of saying like you can gain advantages by taking risks that can get you in trouble. And it goes up if you roll the highest number. So if you roll a 4 on a D4, it goes to a D6. 6 on a D6. So if you get a lot of benefit from it, it hurts you. Because if you ever roll a D20, I think I was going to make like a range. I don't know what the range was, like 17 to 20, or I don't know what it was, but I'll have to figure that out. But if you hit D20 and then have to go up, which in this case would be a bad thing, your character's compromised and is out of play. And you can make of that whatever you will. Maybe it's, they were arrested. Maybe they, went to the other side. However you want to narratively explain it. But wherever it is, your character is gone. You can't play it anymore. Anyway, so that's the general thought on how that's going to work. I don't know if it's actually going to work at all. So, but that's what I'm going to start with. We've got backgrounds and skills. What did I put down here? We're going to go, I think in Mithras Imperative, you get 250 skill points during character creation. I'm not sure. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the guys, I'm going to have Patrick and Matt make their characters and bonus skill points. Okay, so I'm looking at the experience table. Looking at the experience table in the imperative. Actually, you can sort of see, man, let me get rid of some of this stuff so you can sort of see. I'll pop these back open in a minute, but you can sort of see on the table of contents to the right, you can see like character concept, characteristics. So I was trying to just mirror that as much as I could. But basically, you're going to get skills. So you get a certain, so this is what I got to figure out. You get a certain number of skill points to spend at certain steps. You get 100 points for, that's 1 point for your culture. You get 100 points for your career. Is there another moment when you get bonus skill? So you get 100, 100, and then 150. So you're supposed to be able to get, let me just write that down, 350 points total. So I think what I need to do, yeah, because an adult is 150 plus 100 and 100. So I'm supposed to get 350 points total. I think I put it down as 250 points. And that might work because there's less. So this is sort of the thing. I'm not sure if it's going to work, right? Now, I came up with 250 points for a reason. I'm not 100% sure what that is. So let me think about that for a second. I know there's like less skill. Well, no, they're getting a decent amount of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then they're going to get 7, 8. So they're going to get about 8 skills plus the 8 skills plus 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So we're going to have about 24 skills to start. If you have 350 points to spend, what does that give you? I'm just going to do quick calculation. So that means I could spend about 15 points, 14 points on each. So let me start by making that 350 skill points. Now the question is, again, they're supposed to be slightly exceptional. Do we bump that up to like 400? I'm not sure. That's something I'm going to have to sort of feel out in the moment when I look at their skills after character creation's done and see if, because again, I want them to be slightly exceptional. So let's make that 350 to start. There are certain rules, like you can only, like it says right here, you may create your own character concept by blah, blah, blah. Oh, right. Here's you can't raise any skill by more than 20% unless it's your focus. Focus is if you say, like, look at a back box. I think I might need to mark which one's their focus. Okay, so that's something I got to do. Mark which skills are focus, because those you can raise by 50%. So like, okay, so like an analyst has these skills. Bureaucracy, culture, language, research. So probably research is going to be the focus skill, right? And the way I had those before was I would sort of put an asterisk next to them. So I got to mark which skills are the focus. So again, like in this case, I would probably make Where's research? Just pop it in there, put a quick one of those, do that, and now you can see it's asterisked. So, okay. So we got that going on. So that's one thing I got to do. Okay. So once we get, so I feel like the skills are mostly in place. Backgrounds, I got to mark which skills are the focus. And then commandment dice, we sort of just transcribe those over, finishing up. These things don't matter. Name, where you are from in England, social class, whatever. Height, tall, average, short. I'm not going to, Full Mithras has all these tables. I might even have them here. We don't need those for this. Let me just double check. Journal entries, boom, characters, characteristics, calculating characters. So there's a whole, no, that's not it. Height and weight. There's a whole table. You can see if your size is a certain thing, then your range is this, and you can, whatever. We're not dealing with that. We're just going to say tall, average, short, weight, heavy, average, lithe, and your handedness. Now, in Full Mithras, your handedness matters for combat. I'm hoping combat doesn't have to be this detailed. So I'm hoping there's almost never going to be combat. So we'll have to see how that goes. So character creation. So I feel like most of character creation is in place. We've got the backgrounds here. Okay, so now next comes equipment. Now, equipment's not going to be something I want the characters to worry about, like shopping for gear like you would do in D&D or anything like that. What I want them to be able to do, and this is sort of borrowed from Delta Green, is I want there to be, is it Delta Green or Fall of Delta Green or both? I want the idea, it's abstracted. So I want there to be expense categories. Easy, standard, hard, formidable, Herculean. So what you're probably noticing is that those match, as you look over here, the test difficulties of a skill check. Easy, standard, hard, formidable, Herculean. We're not going to bother with a very easy, because if it's that, who cares? Don't even roll it. So we're gonna. So that feels like it's ready to go. The question is, how do you check that? We'll have to figure that out. Operational gear. So this I have to double check where I got this from, because again, I don't want it to be. I probably copied this from like Fall of Delta Green or something like that. So I need to. It's fine for this, but if I ever to sort of write it down, I'd want to change it. I bought Fall of Delta Green, I bought Delta Green, I bought all of them. So I feel like it's okay for me to sort of homebrew whatever I want. But if I wanted to make it official, I would need to check op gear for other game text, but that's not important for now. The concepts, I think, are something I'd want to do. This basic idea, do they have it? First, look at the nature of the cover operations, blah, 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 like having a set of hazmat suits in the kit. I have a feeling I definitely took this. Okay, so if it's not obvious, then one of the agents can roll a preparedness. Now, preparedness is something I was doing with my old list of skills. So what I got to do now is I've got to figure out what the new skill is and swap that in. So it's going to be an item because they're skills. Looking over the list of skills, I'm thinking it might be bureaucracy instead of preparedness, because and what's good about the game is that the other games, I don't know again if it was Fall of Delta Green or Delta Green, but what you can do is you can do one of two things. You can go through the official channels or you can go through unofficial channels. And I wanted to make sure to capture that. So I think the skills I would use to do that would probably be, I'm looking at the list. It's probably going to be bureaucracy for an official requisition, understanding administrative processes, procedures, records, unspoken conventions, allows characters to understand how to navigate and negotiate the corners of government. Whenever red tape or administrative landscapes need to be navigated, a bureaucracy role is necessary. Now, I need to know where I got that language from. Again, it won't matter for this, but yeah, again, if I were ever to sort of put this out there, I'd need to clean that up. So that's fine. Okay, so it's probably going to be bureaucracy. Let me just double check if there's any other standard skills that might apply instead. I don't think there are. Standard skills, I took out some. In Mithras, they have like dance. I was like, no, you don't need, we're not going to deal with that. If you want to deal with stuff like that, we would make it like courtesy. Those would be the types of courtesy, maybe? Would that be? How to act appropriately in social or formal situations. Yeah, so, take out like dance and put in, just courtesy, like there's a standard ride skill. I left that in because in the time, this is like the Cold War, 50s, 60s, there could still be horseback. They are British agents. They might have gone to, certain high class skills and they play polo. So I wanted to put that in there and keep it in there, but things like dance I ditched. So let's make this bureaucracy. To make sure that it's now consistent with the final skill list. I did a lot of prep before. Bureaucracy test. Okay, so now we should have that in there. Bureaucracy. Did I not? Where did I put that? Okay, what about now? Okay. The agents can roll a bureaucracy test to have obtained the item before the operations begin. So you can see like a major expense item incurs a hard difficulty. Now, I wasn't too specific on these kinds of things, so I'm hoping it's something that's okay being a little loose, a little wishy-washy. I'm not. My mic's been muted for a while. Okay, so we're sort of getting... I wonder if that's why I had one viewer, and maybe that's why they dropped out, because I'm kind of curious how long I've been dead silent. Anyway, so yeah, what we've been doing is we've been sort of filling out the official requisition stuff, trying to figure out, getting the bureaucracy. A lot of people sort of get feedback in their headphones, and I find it distracting. But maybe I need to start using this more, because I tend to do that a lot, where I forget to unmute my mic after coughing or getting something stuck in my throat. So yeah, what I'll do is I'll cut a bunch of that out. Yeah, so we're just sort of trying to make sure the language is all updated to the current skill checks. Because again, I've had old skills that we borrowed from other things. Then I started to realize, let's really hone this in on the Mithras imperative. Okay, so we've sort of got that. What's and I saw another skill check down here for bureaucracy. I think this is going to be the old one. It is. So let's do timing and risk. Get this to the new bureaucracy. Now the thing is, to be honest with you, my understanding, and I don't think this is, I think this is accurate. You can't copyright mechanics. You can copyright the text. So the idea of like using skill checks under certain things to accelerate it, not accelerate, whatever, all of that, all of that's fine. What I've just got to make sure is all of the stuff here, all the text here is cleaned up. Again, I'm going to use it in this case just because we got to be ready to go on Thursday. And the idea of it, I don't want to, I don't know. I like the idea of it. And so I'm hoping it works enough to get us started, and then I can tweak it from there. But again, I feel like this is all, again, official reviews, avoiding security. I feel like all of this stuff makes sense. Covering the trail. I probably don't need all of this, to be honest with you. Okay, so now calling in the favorite. Yeah, actually, you know what? This might be starting to get too much. I think what I just need to do is I just need this top stuff. I don't think I need all this. What I like about this is there's low priority, normal priority. So low priority means nobody cares if you get it. So it makes the skill checks harder, not because the equipment might be harder to get, it's just because people drag their feet. So I do kind of like this. Now, complications. Official review. Yeah, again, I don't know if I need to codify all this. I'm tempted to just delete it. And so what I might do is, because what I'm thinking of is the 11th commandment dice sort of covers a lot of this, right? So like a lot of this stuff you could just sort of role play. Access. Agent needs good reason to access class. Okay. Yeah, you know what? I might ditch all of this and just keep it simple. And then see what we need as it goes on. I like this idea of low priority, normal priority, high priority. But do we need this codified? Does this chart basically cover everything? Yeah, you know what? I feel like the chart covers it. And then anything you want to do, like I feel like the GM could wing. You know, you can make it a harder difficulty. Like I feel like in situation, like people would figure out this is what you need to do. This is what you know. Here's how we're going to modify the die roll. I don't think we need any of this. So what I'm going to do is let's just go down. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, you know, put something about many operations take place under the cover of official on the books. Okay. We're going to keep that for now. Man, I really wonder how I'm so bad at this. You know, like I did the same thing when I was doing like Dark Souls 2, where like I just muted my mic for like maybe half an hour. There, it's not such a big deal because then you can watch me play Dark Souls 2. Here, Jesus. All right. I'm so bad at this. Anyway, here we go. Boom, boom, boom. I like that. So now what I'm going to do is, I don't need this. Yeah, I'll just say, you know, players may use their 11th commandment dice to narratively explain how they augment their efforts to obtain the necessary equipment. And I feel like that's it. That covers it, right? Expenses is going to be standard. I think we can, I don't know if I can edit this. Can I edit this? I want to delete a column. How do I do that? Let's try that. Okay. So we're going to make this standard. We need to add a row before because we have Again, we have easy. Now I'm putting E in parentheses, and I'll show why in a little bit. Hard, whoops. Hard, formidable. And this is Herculean, so we need an H. Okay. So easy, we'll make that hours within, say, 30 minutes. Why not? Review, none. Repercussions, none. So I guess the only, why would you even, so it raises the question, why would you even do this? I guess it's just a guide, right? Like nobody's going to care, but it's just a matter of, can you get it? Should it matter? We'll have it there just in case. I'll leave this major, let me change this. Formid, or I'm going to change these. Can be accelerated for high priority operations. Standard or hard. Again, I need to clean up the language. I'm going to leave it for now just because, again, we're going to use this in a couple days. And it gets the idea across where, like, if you want to go for the accelerated, I should say, let me see. Again, you don't need any of this. So I'll put here, requisitions can be accelerated by increasing the difficulty level by 1. I don't know if it's going to be possible to, how would you accelerate a Herculean check? How would that work? I think, is it just not possible to accelerate a Herculean check? Or you know what it is? Okay, so this was something I was going to, okay. Requisitions can be accelerated by increasing the difficulty by 1. A Herculean check requires the use of an 11th commandment die, and that die automatically worsens by 1 level after, regardless of the success or failure of the check. Okay, so what I'm trying to do there, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to incorporate the descending dice system, is I wanted to be able to have like an abstract mechanic that'll let me handle situations like this, right? Like a standard augment of a skill wouldn't let me do this. This will. I think, did I spell repercussions wrong? How do you spell repercussions? Doesn't matter at the moment. But so what we're going to do is they have to do the skill check. They have to use one of their 11th commandment dice. They have to succeed. then it accelerates and it definitely costs them. Where if you do a normal check, it would only go down on a 1, right? Or a 20, or the highest number if it was your compromise. But you see what I'm saying? So this is definitely going to cost you regardless of whether you succeed or fail. So I guess that's the way you would, we're going to use that to start. And hopefully that's enough of a cost. So let's go with that. Again, maybe not the prettiest writing, but it'll get the idea across. I borrowed, so you see at the bottom here, $1 equals 5 French franc, 4 German Deutschmark, 0.35 British pounds. I got that from Berlin 61, I think. Berlin 61 is for BRP. It's an old, they call it a monograph. They made a bunch of these. I had a hard time tracking this down, I got to tell you. But it's a gold mine for sort of D100 stuff. You know, it's all like real stuff. So, you know, it's too much, but it was sort of handy in getting sort of a vibe for the time in a D100, because Mithras is in some ways a derivative of BRP, obviously. So, okay. Now that we've done that, so I think, okay, so we've gotten official requisition sort of squared away. Program managers, what's this? I think this is going to be something I ditch because I don't think it matters. I think this, again, might have been something from Fall of Delta Green. A government program typically has a budget of a few $100,000. Okay, so this is if you need money, I guess, right? So this is if you're trying to bury something, sort of hide something like in the accounting, so to speak. I don't think we need this. Let's just double check. Official requisition. So we're going to sort of roll the cash into this. I think we need to move this here. So what we're going to do is we're going to make, so the cash value standard is 20 to 500. Let's see. Hard is 501 to formidable is, did I screw this up? 21 to 100. This is 101 to 500. This is 501 to all sorts of stuff happening here. To 3,000. This is 3,000 and up. Okay. So the reason why I put that in there is so cash. So say we need to get a payment, like somebody needs $1,000 for a bribe. Well, that's a big request. How do we make it happen? So let's put that in there somewhere. Let's also put bureaucracy role. We're going to put bureaucracy right here as a skill. Let's see. If the players want cash, use the values listed under the requisition expense. Okay, so I feel like that sort of covers what we need to cover. I think what I did is it should be repercussions. So let's do that, repercussions. All right. Okay, so I feel like we got a basic thing going on here with official requisitions. We're gonna ditch program managers. What I might do is I just might put that under old. Restricted items. Many weapons available on the open market are okay, but some equipment is restricted. Do we have any of that in here? Let's see. That would be equipment. I don't know if I did any of that. What I do like is the idea. So again, this is getting into detail that might not be necessarily important. Like one, I don't know if mechanics is even a skill anymore. I think it switched to, what did it switch to? Mechanisms? Okay. Again, sort of like they're saying, like, you know, if you can't buy like a fully automatic weapon, you can buy semi-automatic and use mechanisms to convert. Yeah, sure, of course. But what I do like is the idea of the black market. So let's see. What we basically need is we need the black market. Practically everything that can be out in the black market, blah, blah, blah. And then what we're going to need to do that is we're going to need. So again, this is all the old life. So let's change this to black market purchases. Again, this isn't going to be necessarily something we need for character creation, but I just want to get it squared away because it's questions that might come up. Because I wanted that to be a streetwise check. Buying items on the black market requires we're going to do streetwise. Or an appropriate skill roll to hide your agent's tracks. I feel like we could build that into streetwise, right? Okay, certain things like, yeah, okay, so items are at one expense level higher. I like that. And fumble means there's a complication. I like that. Again, we don't need the details. again, it's a lot of detail we don't need. So let's, practically everything can be had in the black market, including machine guns and explosives. Buying items in the black market requires a streetwise skill. Let's just start with that. You know, but this could be interesting. Well, no, it's going to be streetwise. I mean, I was going to say, like, I could see worlds where you seduce somebody to do this or that, but I think at the end of the day, like, actually just buying black market shit is going to be streetwise. If you get it some other way, you know, get it through those skills. But like if you wanted to trick a car dealer into giving you a car off the books or whatever, that might not necessarily be streetwise, but that's not the black market either. Okay. Let's see if you're a student, you might have access to, we don't care about this. So here's the thing. It says a failure with a skill roll means your agent can't get the item without getting caught. A fumble means your agent gets caught trying to make the buy. So in my mind, I feel like a failure should be you just can't get the item for whatever reason. And a fumble means you get caught trying to make the buy. So let's get rid of that. I guess the idea is you can't get the item without getting, like you, I think it just means you can't get the item, right? You don't need to, a fumble means, okay. Again, like if she is like, again, there's a lot of words you don't need. I don't know if that's, I mean, maybe that helps. I don't know. Okay, so I think that covers basically everything. There's some extra language here. Buying items requires a streetwise. Okay. Okay, we got a streetwise check. Failure with the skill roll means your agent can't get the item. A fumble means your agent gets caught trying to make the buy. Great. Costs are higher. Perfect. Fine. We're not dealing with restricted. That's just, okay, whatever. We don't need program managers. We got black market. Official requisition. Let me just make sure black market purchases. I don't mention. I'm just going to, even though like I'll know this, I'm just going to put this here for now. Okay. So we got that black market, official requisition. Let's see what spending your own money, what that's like. Okay. So this is getting into a bunch of stuff that's not there anymore. So that's one thing we gotta. There's like bonds and rivals. Now, a lot of this I think was taken from Delta Green. And I gotta say, it's a really cool system. You know, you have points invested in different bonds and they go up and down depending, and you can use those bonds. You use them basically. You use them to get stuff. You use them to, you know, talk you off a ledge, whatever it is, but there's a cost to it. And I really like it. And it's sort of like a system that I think the concept of it, I think, is perfect for Cold War spy games. And a lot of credit to Delta Green. But I'm hoping this can be simplified with the 11th commandment. So, and here's why. Assets covers relationships. That's what I'm looking for. The relationships. So spending your own money. Let's see how it works. Your agent can't afford it. If your agent doesn't want to let that stop him or her, then the stress of going so heavily into debt or burning through so much money reduces. So yeah, what I'm going to do is relationships. No, that'd be money. Resources. How's this going to work? It's going to be resources. Again, I know it's abstracted, but I want it to be abstracted because I want it to not get bogged down in a lot of mechanisms. So let's see what we're going to do. Many professionals. Okay. Law. Okay. I think, okay, so like you can come from backgrounds that make you particularly wealthy. Well, I think that's part of the character creation. You can spend skill points to up the 11th commandment dice. So if you want to come from a rich background, it's going to cost you. So I think, I don't know what I said it was going to cost. I was going to have it be 3 XP rolls. Was I going to do 10 points per die? Feels like upping dice should be expensive. It's definitely not this page. This is just skills. $20 points. Oh, no. I was going to let you add to your compromise die to get 20 points per step of extra skill points. I like that. What if you want to up the dice? So yeah, here's all this stuff about compromat hitting D20. Okay, so I think, yeah, I got to figure out how many skill points to up a die roll. Let me write that down. Okay. Cool. Okay. I gotta figure that out. What should that be? What do you got? 350. Feels like it should be substantial. It should be something, you don't want to do it lightly. So, but you don't want to just have somebody go from 1d4. So we're 1d4 to d6, d6 to d8, d8 to d10, d10 to d12, d12 to d20. So if you make it 10 points a step, that's only 50 points to take your d4 to a d20. But if you make it 20 points a step, that's 100. So it's you'd really want to have to do that. But would it be so prohibitively expensive that you never would? I think the answer is you scale it, right? So D4 to a D6 might be 5. D6 to a D8 might be 10. D8 to D10 might be 15. D10 to D... so that's 6, 8, 10, 20 gets you to a D12, and then 25 to a D20. So what would that be? So that would be 30, 50, 75. So that sort of splits the difference between a 50. And so it might make somebody do the lower ones, but really balk at bumping something all the way up. So I think that's the trick. I think you make a D4 to a D6 is 5, D6 to a D8 is 10. It's a little bit extra, man. Or does it even matter that much? This is the thing. I don't know if it's going to matter that much. Going from like a D12 to D20, you don't want somebody to just be like, yeah, why not? Like, I got 10 extra points to spend. Let's do it. So I think I like this idea. So, okay. So that's what we're going to do. Let me go back to Commandment Dice. Let's see, background and skills. Got to make sure it's consistent because I forgot to change that. Should you wish to add professional skill not on your background list? Okay. Okay, yeah, so you can do that. So then let me do, should you wish to increase your starting 11th commandment die values, the costs are as follows. Oh, nope, didn't mean to do that. Again, okay, so let's do that. D4 to D6. 5 skill points. D6 to D8. 10 skill points. D8 to D10. 15 skill points. Again, I want you to feel it, so you're not just going nuts. D10, but again, it also, maybe this is too punitive. Maybe it doesn't matter at all. So, you know, I'm going to say something that's really stupid. I kind of wonder, like, how finely tuned do you have to get an RPG system when it's kind of a lot of abstract? The actual answer is probably a lot, and I just don't realize it, but I'm just curious, in practice, will these things matter that much? If you made it 50 points or 100 points, or the answer is it would, right? You might make, if you go with 50, it might make everybody like too overpowered if it's just a straight 10 points per. Let's see, and then D12 to D20, 25 skill points. Okay. I'll bold this. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Probably didn't need to do that. Let me just delete this gap. Okay. So we got that down. We sort of got that worked out. Took care of that. Great. Spending your own money. That's what we're working on. And what we're going to do is we're going to make it so that you need to use your resources. Ugh, like all this crap you just don't need. Okay. Yeah, I wonder, man, like I've clearly never written a rule book, but when you say things, all this descriptive text, does that flavor help it's not explaining the rule, but does it help sort of contextualize it or help you picture it? I have no idea. Maybe it does. Maybe it does help. I have no idea. But it definitely doesn't help the rule. Let's see. Paying for a standard expense. Make an accounting or a preparedness test to see if your agent isn't. Okay, so this is definitely coming from like Knight's Black Agent. I think the idea is just, how do we want to do this? You have to use a resource die, and it definitely drops it down by 1. I think that's the basic idea. One of the things I wanted to do with the 11th Commandment dice is that with a normal check, you could take the max and definitely have it drop down by 1. So if you had like a D12 in resources, you could have it be 12 for the augment, but then it would definitely drop down to a 10. But I don't want that to be the case here. I don't want that to be the case here. I want it to be a normal roll. So I think Commandment dice, I need to start writing down rules for this. The player may choose to take the maximum value of the die in exchange a guaranteed step reduction. I don't know if, again, if I'm using the best words, but at least I just need to know what it means, right? And of course, because I'm losing it, I'll forget. But for all dice except, so otherwise the die gets reduced on a roll of 1 for all dice except compromat, which increases a step on a roll of the maximum value of the die. Okay, so the basic idea is, so if you have a D12, you can take the D12 and definitely get a 12, but then you drop it down to a D10. So what I think is going to happen, so when I've run Mithras in the past, I did it for like an M space, which is their science fiction setting. I was having people augment die rolls all the time because I wanted them to succeed. And I realized I was probably doing it too much. I was always looking for a reason to augment X with Y. And I think what I need to do in this case is I think this is going to help constrain how often that happens. It won't be up to me to do it. It'll be up to the players to decide when they want to use the dice. So I like pushing it back onto the players to make them make a choice. Because again, you know, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the players to have to choose to take risks, to sort of balance risk versus reward. I think this does that. It takes out of my hands. And then it gives them the additional choice. Do I go all in on this roll? So then another thing about Mithras is you get hero points. Hero points give you rerolls, or lets you, if you get a 83, you can turn it into a 38. You know, stuff like that. So I don't know. We'll have to, do you still get the same number of hero points? My voice goes really quickly, so I'm going to pop a cough drop. So I apologize for any additional ASMR mouth sounds that come from this. Okay, so we've got the 11th commandment, some basics being worked out. Let's see. I'm going to jot down here. Let's see. Should a commandment die drop below a D4 value, exception compromat, then the player can no longer use that resource to augment skill checks, I guess. The player may spend 3 XP. So, okay, so here's the thing. Do we scale the XP spend, or is it always just 3 to go from like a D12? So let's look at this. If you go from a D4 to D6, that's 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. That seems like too much. What if we did 1, 3, 6, 9, 12? You spend an XP to get some value back on the board. That feels fair. We could do steps of 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it cost 5 XP to go from a D12 to a D20. Usually you get like 3 XP a session. So that feels like one session could get you from a D8 to a D10. 2 sessions would get you from D. That feels like it's too fast. Okay. Players may spend XP to increase commandment die values with, doesn't matter, following costs. The main thing is that the compromat die is going to be flipped. So I'll write that in just a sec. Again, D4 to D6. 1 XP. D6 to D8. We'll do 3 XP. Is that what I wanted to do? Yeah. D8 to D10. 6 XP. D10 to D12. 9 XP. And then D12 to D20. 12 XP. Okay. So we're going to go with that. Okay, so now let's do a little bit of, I'm going to bold that. Compromat dice work the opposite way. Did I write down? Otherwise, the die gets redrawn. Okay. Compromat dice reduce a step when the maximum value is rolled. Example, a 12 on a D12. Okay. Let's see. So we got that. Compromise increase a step. So what I want here is that as it gets more powerful, it gets you closer to blowing it, right? So, and the more you use it, the more likely you are. When you get to a D20, should it be just a straight 20, like a 5% chance of getting blown, or should it be like a 15%? I feel like it should be, I feel like an 18 through 20 makes you think about it. I feel like a 20 is like, oh, what's the chances of that? But I feel like an 18 through 20. Once the compromat die reaches the D20 step. God damn it, I was muted again. So yeah, so compromise dice work the opposite way. Compromise dice increase a step when the maximum value is rolled. Once the compromise die reaches a D20, once the D20 step, a roll between 18 and 20 means the PC has been fully compromised and can no longer be played. Have the player narrate the PC's demise. Okay. A player can reduce the compromat. A player can reduce the compromat die by with the following by spending XP using the following costs. Okay. So we're going to do the opposite. D20 to no, let's okay, let's do it the same way. No, I'm going to do it the opposite. D20 to D12 12 XP. So again, the idea is that they really, if you got a D20 compromat, they really have stuff on you. You're dangerously close to going to prison, getting turned, something really, whoops, my chair is going to creak as I roll around, something really bad. So we're going to make that 12 XP. D12 to D10 will make 9 XP. D10 to D8 will make 6 XP. D8 to D6 will make 3 XP. And D6 to D4, 1 XP. And again, in my mind, there is a rationale. I don't know if the values are exactly right, but the idea that, you know, the less they have on you, the easier it is to clean up or make it go away, or however you want to explain it. Let me bold this. Part of the trick is I got to find a way to position my mic. I'm sort of moving it around here like crazy so that I can see the mute button is lit or not lit. It was in a way that I was blocking it. So that's on me multiple ways, but there we go. Okay. All right. So spending your own money. All of that is to get back to this. Let's see. A player may, let's change that. Players may spend their PCs, let's put it that way, may spend their own money on items if they wish to bypass official requisitions for cash or equipment. to do so requires the players, I don't know if I need to capitalize that, doesn't matter, players to augment their skill check with the resource commandment die and reduce that die by 1 step. The players do not get the maximum value guarantee that normally comes with a step reduction. Again, you know, that might not be the best wording, but it's just a reminder to me to say, you know, even though it's getting stepped down a die, it doesn't mean that they get the full value. Okay, so we've got that. I wonder how I'm going to put this up. Like, is there literally any point to putting the audio version of this up? Probably not. So, okay, so we got spending your own money, using illicit cash. What's this? Your agent may have a stack of cash or disposable debit card. Okay, whatever. That's not going to exist. Stolen, again, they don't need to explain. Stolen, embezzled. This allows one or more standard purchases as described in spending your own money. Exactly how many is up to the handler. An unusual purchase counts as 5 standard. Okay, we don't need this. Yeah, we don't need it. Like, again, like, we can just sort of figure out, like, you know, let's see, spending your own money. I think narratively you could explain that, you know, like spending your own money. Like, let's just put a note here. No, you don't even need to say it because, like, I mean, maybe you do on some level, but the idea of like using illicit cash, you know, means that the money's illegally acquired, but it's still sort of using your own cash, you know, so maybe in game you could have narrative reasons why certain dice go up. Let's maybe let's put it this way. It's just a note. It is possible to have on very rare occasions to have in-game story elements increase the change commandment die values during a session. I think that sort of covers the idea of like, you know, if I steal the money, that's going to increase your, you know, again, like, I feel like you don't need to, I don't think you need to really list everything so explicitly. Nope. I might be wrong, but just that's how it feels to me. At least with this system. And again, this is why the whole reason why I wanted to do this descending dice stuff is because I genuinely believed it was going to streamline stuff as well as create some player choice. That's my hope. Okay, so let's see. Finishing up, we don't need that. So we did spending your own money, illicit cash. We don't need illicit cash anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this into old. Let's see, for equipment, I think I was telling you, like, I put the letters like E, S, H, whatever, because on the equipment, if you go to, let's pick a weapon. So this is something I got to figure out. A lot of this stuff is taken from, okay, so I used Berlin 61 to get like the names of the weapons. Now the names of the weapons, I don't think you can copyright those. Like the Walther PPK is the Walther PPK. So then what I did was I think in order, let me just double check how I did this. Because what I'm hoping that I did was journal entries. Nope. I think it's under here for PDFs. Now under PDFs, there's the Mithras firearms. And so what I'm hoping I did was that I have a Walther PPK with the values of blah, blah, blah. My hope is that okay, it's not giving me any of the, okay. So this is like, okay, so here's what I got to do. I got to tweak the special effects. So like, let me see, I've got like the special effects here. The special effects at the time I made this, I made all of them. So you've got like certain ones that aren't going to matter. Did I take out magic? So now in Mithras Imperative, they don't have shield reach, stuff like that. I like that about the Mithras combat. It has this extra detail where it matters. Like if two people are engaged, one has a dagger, one has a spear, you can sort of change the engagement range. So like a spear would try and make like a two-handed spear, you'd make it at a long range. And then you would need to get an advantage to change that range. So the dagger person needs to get small. So if they got the change range bonus, they would go from long to medium. So now that jams up the spear user. They're not quite where they need to be for their dagger, but it's not like they're literally 5 feet to 10 feet away. It's that within their, adjacent hex or adjacent square engagement, they're sort of not stationary. So it sort of gives the idea that, they're creating some space, they're closing the distance, they're getting inside the spear's range and going for the stab. I don't really want that level of detail so much, but I do like it. So that's, so there's all this. Anyway, probably need to figure these out. But what I'm hoping, weapon traits. What I'm hoping is if I go to modern weapons, Walther PPK is what? I got to figure out where I got these numbers from. I thought man, what was I doing? I thought I started. Yes, this is what I thought I did. I thought I started redoing the weapons. So Walther PPK 380 is going to have the stats from what is it, a D6? A 38 pistol. So that way, because I think the Mithras firearms, let me just double check. You're freely given. Okay, the contents of Mithras firearms can also be used as the basis for your own game. This is why I did it, because it's sort of open license if I do it the right way. So I got rid of all the values from Berlin 1961 because I don't want to do that. And I sort of made enough generic stuff. You know, basic pistols, basic guns, shotguns, whatever. We don't need a ton because it's not the point of this. But what I did was if you take like a Walther PPK, you can see the value is S. S means standard, right? If you want a combat shotgun, it's H for Herculean. Sniper rifle, formidable. So the value matches the difficulty of the skill check. So, okay. So yeah, so I need to clean this up and simplify it. Did I do armor already? Yes. I simplified bulletproof vest, flak jacket. Berlin 1961 has tons of information. Tons and tons and tons of information. But I just sort of simplified it. One, again, because combat's not the focus of this game. And two, to sort of get it within the firearms. Bolt cutter, fake ID, handcuffs. I don't know where I got this stuff from. I mean, I feel like this is all pretty generic. First aid kits, evidence kits, duct tape, demolition. Okay. Camera, lineman's butt set to tap phones, night vision goggles, formidable. I think they had night vision goggles of some kind during the 60s. So again, these are all sort of basic, what I'm hoping are basic surveillance gear. Now the camera, I think what we need is like a spy camera though. Is that a professional gear? We'll have to figure that out. Like maybe like a spy camera for surveillance might be harder to get, but whatever, you know, whatever. Survival gear, basic stuff. Again, it's trying to make it very generic. Weapons, so this is what I gotta, like we don't need all of this. We don't need this detail. A lot of this again comes from Berlin 1961. I gotta sort of move some of this down. The one thing I did promise Matt is somewhere in here is a Finnish, like from Finland weapon. I think he's got connections to Scandinavia, Finland in particular. So I think I'm gonna we'll figure that out. Anyway. Okay, so I need to, let me jot that down. So this is the trick, right? Like the stuff in Berlin 1961, it's just based on real stuff, right? So it's not like you can copyright that per se. Like the existence of like a spy camera cannot be copyrighted. It is what it is. It's just, I just got to make sure none of the, can the stats though? Like if you give something 10 hit points, I think that's a mechanic. But yeah, this book is, if you can find it, wow, it's maybe the PDF's easier to get, but man, if you can find that, it's worth getting it for this kind of a Cold War spy stuff. Okay, so clean up weapons. Yeah, I'm not going to do all this on camera. I'm just sort of going through the stuff that I need to prep and need to take care of before Thursday. Okay, so let's see. So finally we have sanity. So sanity again is tenacity points. And I don't know how this is going to work, but I hope that it does. So again, I was saying like Delta Green's got this really cool sanity system built in where you can use your bonds to repair your psychological state of mind. But again, like a lot of the things in a Le Carré book are that you take Spy Who Came from the Cold, right? Like the guy's an alcoholic and he gets slowly broken down more and more and more until he makes the choice that he does at the end of the story, which is it's a tough choice. And so I wanted to have that kind of thing. Tenacity, your sanity is your tenacity points, which equals your power stat. Okay. As tenacity points are reduced, the character becomes more vulnerable to certain conditions. When tenacity points reach a negative value, any conditions gained through exposure to traumatic, horrifying, or sanity-shaking events become permanent. When tenacity points reach a negative value equal to their starting number, the character is considered permanently insane or incapable of any. Okay. So our test character has a power of 17, which means they have 17 tenacity points, which means they would need to get to a negative 17 to be removed from play for that. Now this isn't like a Cthulhu game, so sort of have to figure out if we want to do that or if it's just hitting 0 is good enough. So a lot of these procedures are going to be taken, I believe, from, let me see, no, I need the PDFs. There's the Mithras Imperative. Now the Mithras Imperative is sort of like, nope, that's not it. It's the Companion. Now the Companion is sort of like additional rules, like it cleans up combat, blah, blah, blah. And, it has like options for tactical combat. There's the Mithras core rulebook is a little loose. I think classic fantasy cleans up certain concepts, but if you get sanity and corruption, you can see you've got certain levels of tenacity loss. Now, what did I do for mine? I used the values in the thing. So like if you get something that's such a devastating thing, you get some suffering violence. If you're tortured, that's an intensity level 3. You could lose 10 points off your, if you're ambushed by gunfire, it's a 0. It's, just a straight 1 point. But I really want to get into this. In combat, you must take a willpower test. How do you do a willpower test? Oh, that's a basic. Sorry. Yeah, willpower is right here. So you'd have to do a willpower test. Yeah. For the first time it happens in that way. So this is all taken from Mithras Imperative. Now the problem with Mithras Imperative is I don't know if it has the same open source license as the other stuff. Let's see if I can see real quick. Actually, I will be back in 1 second. Okay, apologies. I need to restock on cough drops here. Okay. So let's just see if we can see it really quickly. Because my fear is that this isn't. It doesn't have the standard language. It does say the Mithras Gateway license, which is not quite the same, I don't think, as the other license, but whatever. Anyway, the point is that we're going to use. At first, I was like borrowing heavily from Delta Green system. It's very complicated in a way where if you start at a certain level and if you get to like the halfway point, then that triggers something and then you get to the halfway point from there. So if you start at a 80. When you get to 40, that triggers something. When you get from 40 to 20, that triggers something, 20 to 10. So it sort of happens more quickly and escalates. I thought it was a really cool system. But we're not going to go with that. We're going to go more with this. And I need to change some of the language. But it's important. You see, like, suffering violence, like killing a person should be hard, right? Killing an innocent in cold blood, you know, just straight up murdering someone, like that should be hard. Now this, oh man, this might be from Delta Green. So there's different types of sort of, there's violence when you suffer it. There's violence when you inflict it. There's helplessness. There's like the mental trauma of not being able to help someone. Some of the language here is a little off, so I need to, because there's no bonds. Bond is a term from Delta Green. So clean up, sanity, helpless. Basically what I just need to do is I need to say like, hey, is this like a loved one? Is this a friend? You know, we might be able to sort of simplify some of these, like flung into, like, again, these are just like examples. Flung into a pit of corpses, I feel like would be higher than one. Just like I feel like seeing or hearing a friend killed would be higher than 2. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to clean up the language and the levels. I'm not going to do that right now. And then here's some of the stuff I liked. Now, is this from the companion? Sanity. Amnesia. Incoherence. So they had a whole table, like, but again, this was sort of meant to be more broad. So I think I might have taken, these might come from, the ideas of them might come from Delta Green. There is no stability. So I gotta, regaining tenacity. So I gotta clean all this up. But the idea is like, okay, so how does a, let's see, conditions. Conditions result from exposure to events. Every time you lose half, okay, so this is sort of mirroring what Delta Green does. Every time you lose half your original tenacity value, you risk either an immediate condition or a deferred condition. When you lose half your tenacity in one hit, roll on the immediate conditions table. Where is that? Where is the immediate? Is there immediate conditions table in the companion? There is. Okay, so I got to get these in here. And I got to figure out, is it a roll table? Did I make roll tables for this? If you go here, you can go to, what's this? I don't know what this is. Permanent injury table. Oh, that's Mithras. What's the Circus? Roll tables, none. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to need to get deferred and immediate. Now, again, this isn't the end of the world if we don't get this going, because I don't believe we're going to need this right away. But what I need to do is I need to conditions. So like an immediate condition is demoralized, faints, flees, paralyzed. I feel like these can all work. I don't think we need babbles and horror. I think we just need like fear. Disturbed, nightmares, paranoia. Like I feel like all those are, but what I want though is instead of those, I also want to make sure we get in addiction, depression, blah, 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 blah. So I got to figure out these things. Possible disorder. So is disorder separate? So I got to figure out how you get disorders. Maybe every time your tenacity hits 0, you gain a disorder. That way it doesn't happen like right away. What's like agoraphobia? Fear of loud noises. That makes sense. Totemic compulsion. Okay. I feel like all this is good. What I think, if PBTA from the Discord was looking at it, he'd probably like, this is awful. What are you doing? But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so whenever you hit 0, yeah, so whenever you hit 0, you gain a disorder. And then I'll have to figure out ways like, can you cure disorders or is it permanent? I don't like the idea of anything being permanent. I think there should always be a way to... I don't know. I feel like there should always be a way to give the player something to do, right? If it's just like, nope, that's it, you're done. Like then it takes, they never have to make choices about it. They never have to think about it. It's just something they, and maybe it sucks, right? Like it could ruin a character. So, I'd want them to be able to have agency to change that. So we need to figure out a way to, so let me jot that down. And maybe, so you get a disorder. So maybe I will keep, why was I, what happens every time you cut something in half? You get an immediate condition or a deferred condition. So let's just double check what the deferred conditions are. Deferred conditions, disturbed, suffers nightmares. Okay, yeah. That's fine. Yeah, that works. Get disorder when tenacity hits 0. So hit 0 based on type of event. So the reason why I'm mentioning that is because you can get, I think it's broken down, violence, just helplessness and violence. You get sort of slightly different ones depending on what happens. Again, this is all Delta Green. Again, I think Delta Green, my understanding is Delta Green does not necessarily have an open source kind of SRD kind of thing. But I think they also make the argument you don't need one because you can't copyright mechanics. And I think even they like borrow and other people borrow. And so I'm hoping like I could, again, I don't think I could literally take this text, but the idea of, I think a conversion disorder is not something they made up. I think that might be like a technical term. So yeah, so you hit 0, depending on if it's a helplessness or a violence, you get one of those. I guess maybe we let the player choose, right? Because, I mean, maybe we make a roll table, but they can choose if they want, because if there's one they find interesting. But again, this is the idea, like, as the job breaks you down, you become a drunk. That's I want something like that in this game. Regaining tenacity. Your tenacity increases by your healing rate for each day that passes without having to make a stability check. See bonds and rivals. So this is the thing. We're not going to have bonds and rivals. So, but what I really like in Delta Green is that when your agent would lose sanity, you could project that onto a bond or rival and sort of use that person's role in your life to mitigate the damage, but it would cost you. It would make either the rival more powerful because they would be inside your head, or a loved one would grow more distant because you're burning that relationship. I really love what Delta Green does with all of this stuff. Now they apply it to Cthulhu mythos and that kind of batshit crazy, but I feel like the core of it works so well. So then you're wondering, like, why am I not running this in Delta Green? A, how dare you? B, that's a good question. And it's going to be a stupid answer. It's because the VTT is less flexible compared to Mithras. Delta Green, I don't believe, has an augment die roll mechanic, but I'm sure you just turn it into a bonus, right? So I could have probably added, and then this is where like 3 days before the adventure, I scrap everything. But really, it's such a stupid thing. But like, one of the things is like on the character sheet in the VTT, you can't get rid of certain skills. You can't get rid of occult or whatever the skill would be. And for me, that'd be very distracting. I also really like the idea in this game of special. I think I had the thing up here. Special combat special effects. And the reason why I like it is because it can take combat and really get it over with quickly. You know, if you get the advantage and compel surrender, fight's over. Like I don't want combat to be this protracted event. I want it to be able to end in different ways. What I was thinking about recently, but I don't think I'm going to worry about it right now, is these are combat special effects. One of the best things about the age system, fantasy age, modern age, what else do they have? Blue Rose, The Expanse. That might cover it for now. But they have like special actions you can do when you're whatever dice roll doubles. It doesn't matter. But the point is that while they started as sort of combat special effects, they included social exploration. And so I'm kind of wondering, like, anytime you have a challenge, well, no, that's the thing, right? Like, if I get a critical and my opponent in an opposed roll gets a success, then I succeed. Do I really need... Do you need to codify special effects, or can the GM just sort of wing it? Maybe it's not. I was wondering if there's maybe out of combat special effects that could be interesting, but I don't have to worry about that just yet. I'm wondering if I made this chart for M space, and that is why there's no mention of like magic, like overcharged spells and stuff like that. The thing I'm worried about is that I didn't include special effects. Like, do I have circumvent cover? I do. Okay. Do I have, assuming the shooter is using high-tech weaponry, what do I have for that? Shoot around target's cover may require advanced self-guided ammunition. Yeah, that's from there. Let's see, drop foe. Yep, got that. Duck back. Duck back. Okay, these are all taken from the Mithras firearms. There's extra special effects they added. So I just wanted to make sure I had those. Marksman. Yep. Okay. Cool. Okay. So I don't need to worry about that. but I do need to figure this out. So let's see. Adapting to trauma, cool. So I have to, okay, you permanently loses 1d6. Oh, unfortunately, being adapted to violence, I like that. You can lose charisma. Okay. Adapting to helplessness, loses power. Okay, I get that. That might be from Delta Green, but I like the idea of it. Sometimes it's easier to cope with mental trauma if you pull strength and motivation from the relationships that give your life meaning. So this is going to have to be cleaned up to be relationships. So let's see. If a player wishes to do so, you know what I'm going to do? What I'm going to do is what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make, sometimes it's easier to cope with a mental trauma if you pull strength and motivation from the relationships that give life meaning. Again, I need to clean up this language because this is probably from Delta Green. You may attempt to repress the blind panic of temporary insanity or an acute episode of a disorder by damaging your personal relationships. I love this. So if the player wishes to do so, let's get this to go with the 11th commandment dice. Roll, if the player wishes to do so, roll, what we're going to do is we're going to have them be able to take the relationship die and reduce the amount by whatever they roll. And then the die automatically drops. And then I think what I'm going to let them do, I think I'm going to let them do that more than once. So say you just get hit with like a massive level 4 stability kind of awful thing. You watch a loved one get executed. You have to murder an innocent. You could be dealing with, suddenly, you could be dealing with a D20 worth of tenacity damage. And so like, boom, like 20, that would like knock you out right there and then, right? If you have a D6 relationship, you could lower that D20 by 3. So now you're down to 17. It's not like it's amazing. And now you're down to a D4, but you can further do it. So now you'd be down to a 15. So I like the idea. Yeah. I'm going to so you could just burn all of your relationships right there, to knock it down as much as possible to try and save your mental energy. In Delta Green, like they specify to like loved ones and bonds and stuff like that. And I really like that, as I keep saying over and over, but here it's a little more abstract. So let's change that. Roll. If a player wishes to do so, roll the relationship die and subtract that from the tenacity damage of the event. Then reduce the relationship die by 1 step. The player may choose to repeat these steps until the relationship die is exhausted. Let's start with that, but then there's something else going on. If the player wishes to roll 1d8 and change your bond roll, okay, this buys a chance to make a stability check. Well, let's see what this is saying, though. Let's see what this is actually saying. Sometimes it's easier to cope with a mental trauma if you pull the strength and motivation from the relationships that give life meaning. Okay. So I think I think it also buys the chance. So it's definitely going to reduce the tenacity. Okay, so it's going to definitely reduce the tenacity damage. So something that happens in Foundry sometimes is that it doesn't record that you're making changes, like it doesn't refresh. Roll the relationship die and reduce the tenacity damage by that amount. Then reduce the relationship die by 1 step. This buys a chance to make a, okay, so it's a willpower check. Okay, so we need to get that. Let's save this, see if it changed. See, again, I don't think it's making the change. So I think what I need to do is let me refresh. Let's get this journal entry back up. We were in sanity, procedures. Okay. Hopefully now it'll record any changes I make. Yeah, every once in a while you just got to like sort of refresh the page and go from there. Okay. Here we go. Oh, it started to do it. Yeah. If the player wishes to do so, roll the relationship die and reduce the tenacity damage by that amount, then reduce the relationship die by 1 step. This also buys a chance to make we're going to make it a willpower. Now you don't have to I like to hyperlink everything when I can because how do you spell occurrences? 2 R's? Because in game, there's too much in the moment. There's a lot going on. I'm just trying to keep things moving. Standard is going to be a willpower check. Okay, so what do we got? Sometimes it's easier to cope with mental trauma if you pull strength and motivation from the relationships that give life meaning. You may attempt to repress the blind panic of temporary insanity or an acute episode of a disorder by damaging your personal relationships. If a player wishes to do so, roll the relationship die and reduce the tenacity damage by that amount. Then reduce the relationship die by 1 step. This also buys a chance to make a willpower check to avoid the insanity or acute episode. The player may repeat these steps until the relationship die is exhausted with each reduction creating the chance to roll willpower to avoid insanity or an acute episode. Okay. There we go. So there we go. Like it, I think we have the basic framework in place for sanity. Combat is just going to be combat from Mithras Imperative. I feel like we've got the basics of character creation down, but we'll have to feel them out. We've got the basics of equipment. Again, there's some changes that have to be made. So I'm kind of feeling like we have sort of the pillars of what we need to get a game started. So hopefully, hopefully, we got character creation. We sort of got that worked out. We know we have to tweak some stuff. But we got stats, spending points. We don't need equipment right away, but we have a way to get it. That's sort of worked out. Combat is combat. So I probably should bring some of that in, but I can just reference the Mithras imperative as needed. And we have sanity, so that's a different type of damage. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about sort of knowing the things I still need to do and knowing that I have enough pieces in place that hopefully, fingers crossed, it should work. Then the only thing I have left to do is, unfortunately, I've got to clean up the weapons and stuff, but I'm a little nervous. I've got the mission sort of worked out, but I'm worried that I don't have enough meat on that mission. Like, I have the task that I'm going to give Matt and Patrick. So it's Patrick likes to go by Patrick, but because I'm tongue-tied, sometimes I almost say Pat and Matrick. So it doesn't even make sense, and it's not what Patrick likes to be called. But yeah, so I think I need to also flesh that out to make sure that I've thought of some contingencies. Like, I've got the opening scene in place, and then I just sort of turn them loose. And I want them to sort of have like a strong guiding hand in where the story goes. I'm very much I've probably said this before, but if you know a game called Deus Ex, it's a type of role-playing game made over 20 years ago, around 2000, I think, 99, something around then. And what I've always appreciated about that design style is that it's an RPG where they give you a mission that's contained. Like in the first one, it's like sneak into the Statue of Liberty and do X. The way you do that is up to you. You can approach it stealth. You can go loud. You can sneak through tunnels. You can hack. They don't tell you how to get from A to B within this confined area. It's wide open, but you do have to get from A to B in this confined area. I'm not a huge sandbox RPG adventure fan. I mean, it's not that I'm not a fan, but it's not how I tend to create my adventures. And so what I have in this case is I try and follow that Deus Ex model where I'm giving them an objective. The objective is specific and it's pretty self-contained, but how they do it is entirely up to them. All I know is that they have to do that. And I'm pretty much open to, without it getting too stupid, I'm pretty open to how they approach that task. So we'll have to see. But I'll have to give that a think. It's such a crazy week, because I'm trying to prep all of this. I've gotten our next episode edited, so I think I'm done on that front. But there's one other thing I have to prep for with Matt that's outside of Black Lodge Trivia Night. I'm sort of trying to juggle everything. Yeah, but this was really fun. And I feel like I'm in pretty decent shape. Even if I don't have everything literally typed out perfectly, I feel like I was saying, the bones are kind of there to get this off the ground and running and to take it for a spin. It might not work once we actually get it up and running. It might be a trash fire, but I feel like we have what we need to at least try and see how it goes. My backup plan, I think I mentioned this in the last Damn Fine Coffee, which should be up before this goes up. We are at 399 videos on the channel. That includes tons of shorts. I know it's not all just regular videos, but I'm just going to hold off posting too much the week that I'm recording this so that our 1 year anniversary Damn Fine Coffee special, whatever, can be the 400th episode. It's totally meaningless. It's an arbitrary symbolic act, but that's what I'm going to do. And yeah, that's why this will probably go up after that, because I'm just going to let sort of everything hold off for a second to make sure 400th episode is our 1 year anniversary. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I feel like, we've gotten sort of a good framework here. I'm really excited to see how this works. Then there's little things like, I want to get some music. Now, I don't play music on my end while I'm running the game. And it's not because I don't like the music. I pick the music to be atmospheric and, nice ambience. It's because I'm trying to isolate the sounds of the dice roll. So I have that clean, and so I can move it around without, if I'm chopping stuff out, or if Matt tightens audio or something, it doesn't affect, there's not an awkward music chop. So I always add the music later. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. But I am really excited. It's something I've been thinking about and talking about for months, if not the entire year that Black Lodge Trivia Night has been around. I started thinking about this before Black Lodge Trivia Night came into existence. So I've been thinking and mulling this one over for a while. And it's very exciting that it's finally going to get a chance to see the light of day. And if it works, again, it's I'd like to, if other people would be interested in it, because I don't know of a ton of Cold War spy, non-Cthulhu, not PBTA, I don't know a ton of those. So I feel like this might give you an option. Anyway, this has been Black Lodge Trivia Night. Thank you very much if you've checked this out. I apologize. I'm going to chop it out in post so you won't have to deal with me being muted for 20 minutes or whatever. But I do apologize if anybody checked out this stream on Twitch and saw me dead silent like a madman. We are an actual play podcast. If you're watching the playback of this on YouTube, you've already found our channel. Like, subscribe. We appreciate all of that. We appreciate all the people that have subscribed to the channel already. Come join us on our Discord. That's where we talk about RPGs, sometimes CRPGs. Sometimes we get games organized. I think one coming up pretty soon is Band of Blades. We started a Dragonbane, but had to reschedule for, it doesn't matter, but that's another one. But we're hoping to get more people into the Discord. We're hoping to get more people, seeing if they want to organize games and, meet up and find people to do online RPGs with. Otherwise, regardless, thank you so much if you checked this out. We appreciate it, and have a good night. Thank you.